And if the parents get taken, then you have to then you yelled as soon as the ICE starts pulling somebody from their car, somebody will start yelling, "Tell me your name. Tell me a phone number of somebody I can call." That's everybody has a pen and paper and is just waiting to try to, and usually the people are just screaming because they're being attacked and dragged from their vehicles or whatever. And so not everybody gets it out right away. And so people aren't always told. And then all of a sudden you got to be like, "Hi, 6-year-old girl. You just saw your mom get abducted. Can you tell me what your mom's name is?"
Welcome to Toxic. Be aware this podcast delves into tough to hear but necessary to discuss topics surrounding violence against women. There may be descriptions of intimate partner abuse and violence, child abuse, and sexual assault, which can be triggering. Please exercise caution when listening. We also use adult language because, well, we're adults. Finally, if you like what you hear, please leave a review or click the subscribe button so the magic podcast machine can tell you when our next episode comes out.
Oh, hey, welcome to Toxic. Neither one of us decided to intro it, so I just will. It's a me.
I just assumed you were going to. You know what?
Yeah.
That's where I'm at. Look at my stress vein already popping out of my forehead. Hi, it's Jenna. That's who I am. That's already just soaking in the anger and all the crap since we last recorded, which our last episode was the Christmas one, yeah?
The Christmas one. So if you came from that one, well, we're going to take all that joy away now because there's no more joy to be had. It's 2026 and we're off to the races.
This has been, because we recorded on Christmas Eve.
Mm-hmm.
This has been the longest month of all time. The horrors. There are too many horrors to list in a month's time. We can try to run through them.
The fuck is happening in our country?
We invaded Venezuela and stole their president and the first lady. We tried to invade Greenland, but then somebody started calling it Iceland, and I think everybody knew that he was full of shit, and then we didn't invade Greenland.
Yeah, we should stop there and stop saying we, because I don't really want to be part of the collective we. Just because I'm a citizen of this country, I want to say,
fair enough.
I didn't have any say in this shit. I didn't vote for him. I didn't vote on any of these things he's been doing.
Them? The Orange Army? I don't know. Yeah. So there was that, and the crazy thing, again, which is part of the plan, I can't even remember all the other crap that this administration has done outside of possibly invading things. Trump had 2 extremely long speeches that made no sense and rambled. There was a photo taken of him a couple days ago where he looks like he's on death's door.
Where he's by the flags? Is that one?
Well, there was that one. There was the one where he was in Davos, but it was the one where he was sitting and he's just okay, visual medium, not a visual medium. So take my sound effect for what it was.
You can go to YouTube though and see.
Yeah, you can. And then today was my favorite one where he said that he was like, "Well, my dad had that illness. I can't think of the name of it." And he points at Carolyn Levitt and she says, "Alzheimer's?" And he goes, "Yeah, Alzheimer's. I don't have that." He forgot the word for Alzheimer's and then said, "Yeah, I don't have that."
But he has it.
He so does.
At least he has dementia.
There's something happening.
I think everybody with 2 eyes can see that he has, even without eyes. I think with ears, you could probably discern.
A full listening experience, I think you'd be able to tell.
But I think the latest and greatest tragedy and horror is what's happening in your home state of Minnesota.
Yeah. Let me pause while I take a drink of wine because I needed to even talk about this right now.
We can't do this sober. There are no words to describe how horrendous it is. And
no.
I'm sure everybody knows, but just in case you need to get caught up, the Cliff Notes version is that ICE murdered 37-year-old protester Alex Preddy, an ICU nurse, on Saturday. He was brandishing a camera, and his last words were, "Are you okay?" as he protected a woman from being sprayed with tear gas. A video clearly shows, multiple videos, I should say, clearly
Angles,
show
many.
ICE agents removing his legally owned handgun from him after beating and fatally shooting him, then leaving him to die without rendering any first aid.
Again, no, and something that I read was that people were almost hearing them. There was a guy calling for a scissors, and what the bystanders heard was them counting how many bullet holes he had.
Yeah. And people are saying that the Department of Homeland Security is saying that he had this handgun out and he was
brandishing it.
threatening the agents, and they were trying to disarm him, and then that forced them to open fire. Of course, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz said this narrative is, quote, nonsense and lies. And I'm going to go ahead and take Team Waltz on this one because we've all seen the video and it is nonsense and lies. And if you haven't seen it, you can find it anywhere, or you can read the New York Times article, which breaks it down moment by moment and shows you why it's nonsense and lies. But I'm afraid that the Fox News watching people will just look at that and be like, it's just fake news. They're just,
what are you talking about? Look at the video. Somebody can tell me what happens and I'll just believe it.
This, of course, follows the deadly shooting of 37-year-old Renee. What? How crazy that they're the same age. 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good on January 7th. Her last words, of course, "That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you." She was also fatally shot multiple times. It was not rendered first aid, nor was a nearby doctor allowed to check on her. She was not armed. She was in her car. They said that she was trying to run them down. Video clearly shows that she was trying to get away from them.
Mm-hmm.
There are many other people that ICE has killed since then. The Marshall Project reports that ICE has killed at least 3 other people in the last 5 months, though I've read reports the number is much higher, 8 or 9 this year alone, if you count those who have died while being held in the detention camps. Last September, Silverio Villegas Gonzalez, a father originally from Mexico who worked as a cook, was killed while reportedly trying to flee from officers in a Chicago suburb. And then in December, a Border Patrol agent killed 31-year-old Mexican citizen while trying to detain him in Rio Grande City, Texas. And then I think we heard this one too on New Year's Eve, an off-duty ICE agent used his service weapon to shoot a man in Los Angeles, according to CBS News. Authorities said the man had raised a rifle at the officer. He was actually holding a rifle. Once again, he was holding a gun, but it was during New Year's Eve. He shot a bullet into the air. As some people do on New Year's Eve, which I don't necessarily think is the best choice in the world, but it certainly doesn't sign their death warrant. An ICE agent came up and fatally shot him.
No, that's a citation.
Yeah.
It's a misdemeanor.
We should also, real quick, let us not forget, and we are not dumb to this fact as two white women who host a podcast, that Black people have been ruthlessly killed without cause by law enforcement officers for decades. So this is not anything new to them, and we need to acknowledge that as white people who are shocked once again that this is simply now in our face more than ever due to everyone recording everything, which is so brave and so vitally important to do, but we are not forgetting that fact.
Yeah, and especially like here in Minnesota, and I'm sure many other states where there's a lot of an indigenous population. Indigenous people have also been taking the brunt of this from law enforcement for years upon years as well. And I don't know if I personally posted something on my personal Instagram, but it's the graphic has gone around kind of showing the location of where Alex and Renee were murdered in conjunction with where George Floyd was murdered. And it's like a backwards S that weaves through South Minneapolis. They're all very, like, you could, if you wanted to, you could walk between the blocks because it's literally like a matter of being 25th and Nicollet to, I think it's 35th and Chicago. And so it's, that's 10 blocks south and just a few blocks over for each. So it's wild, and it's really, really weird to leave your house and just see dudes driving around in blacked out SUVs with masks over their faces, driving like they're like no rules apply to them, which clearly they don't. And I haven't, I live in a suburb. I guess you would say it's maybe like a second ring suburb of St. Paul even. So I'm more removed, but it hasn't removed me from seeing ICE because we've been told today that there's 4,000 ICE agents in the state right now. We were told it was 2,000. Then they sent another 1,000. But what we were just told by Christy Nome, I believe, was that it's actually 4,000. Oops, we miscounted. We forgot 1,000 dudes. that are roaming around your streets, and everybody's affected. Everybody either has a second or third degree relation to one of the people that was murdered, or has somebody on their block that was taken, or has seen these ghost cars that are just sitting around, which is where ICE drags people out of their cars and then leaves the cars sitting there, sometimes running with the person's
picture that
personal
you
belongings.
posted was eerie.
It's
I don't like
so
that.
terrifying. I mean, so like, and there
This is
are.
a horror movie. Like, how is this even real?
It's like a zombie apocalypse movie.
It's
And
like World War Z shit.
Right. It's like World War II meets World War Z. Because it's like they're disappearing people. And the city on many days has been a ghost town because people are not leaving their homes because they're too afraid to. But there are people doing patrols and doing everything that they like. That is the one thing that I'm trying to like to people that don't live here. And I know that the story's getting out a little bit more now and there's not as much need to kind of parade it around. But like Minnesota and Minneapolis and St. Paul in general, we're very community oriented and we're very much always going to help our neighbor, even if our neighbor doesn't believe the same things we believe. It's just kind of the way that it is here. It's the land of Minnesota nice, which is also like passive aggressive nice, and also I'll talk shit about you behind your back kind of nice. But we're still trying to be nice. We're still trying to be good people. And everybody that cares is doing something. And there's like no question about it. Like anybody who cares about anything has either donated money or donated time or resources or protested or spread the word about like everybody's doing something, which is amazing.
You took a propane tank to the vigil, right?
I did.
For
so
Renee.
Yeah, there's a guy who's actually here from Atlanta that's been up here documenting taking photos, and he's a photographer and documenting everything. And he decided that he was going to be one of the people that stood watch over the vigil for Renee Macklin Good so that it doesn't get disturbed and that the cops don't come and take it away, because that's kind of what ended up happening for George Floyd, is that the cops kept trying to clear all the memorial stuff. And it was like, no, you can't take this. People need this place right now. Like people need to be able to go to a place where they can be with others and mourn and whatever else. And so he's been there for, that would have happened January 7th. So he's been there for almost 20 days. And I brought, he called out for like propane tanks so that they could get some heaters going to keep them warm while they're there.
Somebody's there 24 hours a day.
There's always somebody. There's always at least 2 or 3 guys there.
That's amazing.
Keeping watch, either sleeping taking shifts, sleeping in the van and like all this stuff. So I brought a propane tank down there, and that was the first time that I had seen that memorial. I knew that I was going to cry. It's a sad thing.
Yeah.
I cried about it the whole day that it happened and the following days after that. I didn't cry when I got there. I was just kind of like holding my breath. And then I'm probably going to cry now. But
yeah, I feel like that too.
When I gave the propane tank to, like, I kind of walked across the street and I was like, who's Ryan? Because I had no idea who he was. I'm going off of like a Threads photo and I just had no idea.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, it's me. And I was like, oh, hey, it's like, Jenna, here you go. Here's this propane tank. And he was like, oh, cool. Like, when it's out, I'll get it in a hold of you and you can grab it. And I was like, nope, just keep it, refill it. Like, I don't need it. It was just sitting in my garage. Please take it. And he was like, oh man, like, thank you so much. And I was like, no, like, thank you for doing this. And as soon as I said thank you, like, he reached out for a hug and I was like, well, fuck. And I just was done. And I was just sobbing. And then I went back to my car and cried for like 5 minutes. And this is all before I had to go to work that day, which was like the worst idea that I've ever had. I'm all made up, looking like a raccoon in my car. And so then I get myself together and I'm like, okay, time to go to work, because we're all still, got to make money and got to make sure those emails and memos get sent, all those TPS reports.
Yep. Most important thing.
And then I drove by a school where there were parents in safety vests posted up at every corner and the driveway, and people, everybody's got whistles and they're all just sitting there and they're waving at the cars driving by, and they're all just there to make sure the kids are getting into school safely and not going to be, essentially stalked at drop off, or if the parents get taken. So that they're there to be able to blow the whistle and let everybody know that ICE is there. And if the parents get taken, then you have to then you yell as soon as the ICE starts pulling somebody from their car, somebody will start yelling, tell me your name, tell me a phone number of somebody I can call. Like, that's, everybody has a pen and paper and is just waiting to like try to, and usually the people are just screaming because they're being attacked and dragged from their vehicles or whatever. And so not everybody gets it out right away. And so people aren't always told. And then all of a sudden you got to be like, hi, 6-year-old girl, you just saw your mom get abducted. Can you tell me what your mom's name is? Right? It's so fucking stupid. And then the story that I was telling today is that there are so many people being detained that never broke a law, or that are citizens, or are here legally with legal documentation. ICE doesn't give a shit. They will take you anyways. If they don't like the way that you looked at them, they'll yank you out of your car and take you. They'll break your window, yank you through your window, take you in the back of the car. If you're lucky enough to make it to the detention center, because a lot of people are getting put in the back of these cars and getting the crap beaten out of them and then just thrown out a couple 12 blocks later with whatever they had on when they got abducted, and then have to find their way back. Like what happened to a kid that worked at Target that they abducted and drove him 12 blocks.
Is that maybe better than a detention center?
It's
Maybe.
Possibly. I mean, getting the shit beaten out of you is not great, but like at least you didn't end up in the detention center, because what
who
happens
knows
there,
what's happening in the detention center.
The people who, because there are people who go there and then are released, and they're released anywhere between like 6 and 20 hours after they get brought in. And either they get put into a holding cell with, I mean, I don't even know if they discriminate against whether or not you're male or female, which is problematic to start with. And then, not that I feel like anybody's taking advantage of the situation at this point, because everybody's scared shitless and
there's
whatever
been reports
else.
of ICE guards raping female prisoners. What do you, I mean, of
Detainees,
course we knew
that's
that
what
was,
I'm calling them.
I mean, besides the gas chambers, are we that far off from calling them concentration camps?
No, they are. I mean that's exactly what they are. If you've seen the pictures of them, they're all laying on the floor in chain link fenced areas. It's
if they're unaliving these people in these detention centers, they're not releasing that information to the public or the press. There's
absolutely
no
not
record of that happening. There's no little log book that's getting put down in.
Like I said, that's
how many of these
that
people are disappearing, and their families in Mexico or their families here are asking, hey, where is this person? And they're like, you know what? We'll check our record books and get right back to you. And then ghosting.
Mm-hmm.
Like 1,000% guaranteed this is happening.
We had a Amber Alert last week, which went off at like 11:30 and scared the shit out of all of us. And it was some little white blonde-haired girl. And I was like, they must really know that this kid was abducted by like someone that they know abducted her, because otherwise how could they put out an Amber Alert right now? Every kid that's being taken by ICE should be an Amber Alert, and we're not getting an Amber Alert every time that happens.
Can you imagine if, God, like a Brown family calls 911 and says my kid was abducted? Does 911 just say tough luck and hang up on them?
I think they basically say, could they have been taken by ICE? And then it's up to them to try to figure out where they are. It's just ridiculous. But getting back to that point is like the federal building that they're taking people to is it's just northeast of like the airport slightly.
Uh-huh.
It's in very, very far southeast Minneapolis. And after these people that are allowed to leave, that they have determined either they can't charge them with a crime because they didn't commit one, or they're here legally and they detain them just because they felt like it, or whatever, like any number of reasons, they generally just let them go without documentation, without anything. And if they abducted you and you lost your coat in the struggle, or like we saw that man being taken out of his home with a blanket over his shoulders and Crocs on, that's what you wear there. They're not giving people clothes or jackets or blankets or anything. That's it. And so if you get released with whatever you have on you. They're taking your phone the minute you walk in, because now that's evidence. That's theirs now. You never get that back. You don't have a phone. You might not have a jacket. You may not have shoes. You may be wearing a t-shirt. Like, whatever. And then they just let you out of this place, which is essentially like on the other side of the highway from Minneapolis. And there's nothing around it that you can walk to. There's no gas stations.
There should
nothing.
Be volunteers posted there.
So there are. So all the protesters that were there, that are there 24/7, there's always somebody there, started noticing that these people were coming out through the gates without a phone. Like, they didn't know what day it was because they didn't know how long they'd been in there. Like, no jackets. They hadn't eaten in 20 hours or hadn't any water or something. And so people started doing like a coat drive where they were collecting winter coats and things to keep people warm and like shoes if they needed it. And then they did like a monetary drive too, and they bought a bunch of burner phones. So essentially when people, it's so fucking sad, when people come out of the Whipple after they've been detained, there are people there waiting with a blanket and like a hot cup of coffee or hot chocolate, and take them to a car that's running, that's warm. Because like right now it's 15 degrees here, but the wind chill for the past like 4 days has been -20. Like it's just, you can't be out with bare skin. You will get frostbite. And these people take them in their cars and they are like, do you need something to eat? Do you have anybody that you can call? Do you know the phone numbers of people? Then they give them a burner phone, and then that's their phone to keep because they don't have a phone anymore. They just give them a phone and like, here, you're going to need this until you can either get your phone back, which you probably won't, or go buy a new one.
So what is the point then of detaining them to let them go? I thought they were detaining them to deport them. Just detain them to torture them? Just scare
to fuck
them?
with them. Yep.
Is it
because
just
they're angry?
This 1,000 people quota so they can say they met this quota? Because they're saying that that's still 1,000 person a day.
That's all of that. All of that is just falsified because they're taking anybody. Anybody can be detained.
Right. They don't need to have a reason. They're just taking anybody who's like an immigrant.
Because people will be standing there saying, here is my passport. Here is my driver's license. And they won't, it's like they act like they can't hear them. Or they'll knock it out of their hands and then cuff them.
Right.
It's insane. I don't want to keep going on this because I know I could talk all day. But my point is like,
I was going to say, is there a place where people, do you know off the top of your head? And if you don't, we can link it in our show notes where people can donate. Because I feel like
I think is it Stand Up Minnesota? Hold on. I'll double check real quick here.
To let people know, because this was a detail that I wasn't aware of.
Yeah, and I've been trying to standwithminnesota.com.
Okay.
Standwithminnesota.com. They it's a huge donations directory. So they have a bunch of different categories. There's like, here's mutual aid and like material stuff. So like, do you want to be able to send in money for food? Do you want to send money for rent relief because people aren't working because they can't leave their houses, or they're afraid to leave their houses, or their place of employment got raided and it's not open anymore. And then there's like crowdfunding stuff where it's like people trying to raise money for like faith communities or just like individual families that just need help. People have been doing like food drives and giving food out to people who haven't been able to go to the grocery store. Like it's, everybody's doing amazing here. Like aside from the fact that the feds are murdering and maiming us on the streets, the community is like, we've never been closer. And like,
that's
I don't think
the positive part of the most horrid things that happen in history is that it does make people feel like, okay, now is the time where I gotta fucking show up, show out, and this is where I'm needed. And you can tell the people who are doing the good and the people who are speaking out about like, why are you making such a big deal out about this? You know, and you're like, ooh, I know what side of history I want to be on. I want to be on the helping side.
The biggest thing around here is people will, you know who they are because they'll say, well, you know, they got to get rid of the fraud in the state somehow. And it's like, oh, you care more about fraud that's already been observed, people have been arrested for, and many have already been convicted for a scandal that revolved around stuff from the pandemic. That's more of your concern than the feds stealing people out of cars and homes and murdering citizens on the street. That's a bigger deal to you. Okay.
I mean, if you're not affected by the 5-year-old in the blue bunny hat, Liam Ramos, if that doesn't hurt every part of your heart, or the 2-year-old little girl who was pepper sprayed and then taken into custody with her father.
Oh, that was a 6-month-old. There's two different stories. There was a 2-month-old that was abducted and taken to a detention center. They've been reunited, I think, with their parent or something.
I thought it was 2-year.
Sorry, that would be my alarm going off. That's a cat purring.
I thought it was a pig snorting.
It's a very bad cat purr. I had a better one before. This one is not good. No, I'm quite sure those are two different stories because there was the story of the 6-month-old that was in the car with her family and the tear gas rolled under the
window.
The tear gas rolled under the van and exploded, and it caused all the airbags to deploy. And they smashed windows, and the 6-month-old was like, stopped breathing because it had inhaled so much tear gas and had to go to the emergency room. Like It's, and I think it's something to be said, though, like,
and be like, we've gone too far. Something is wrong here.
that's the wild thing. I mean, that's what I said to my partner. I was like, I just don't understand. This is just common compassion and empathy. That's all this is. It's not that difficult to care.
It is for some people
And
because
it
they
really
haven't
is.
cared for a long time.
They've been
Because
told not to.
they've been brainwashed into thinking that none of this is real. That all
And that
of
none of it
this
affects
is
them. Will
made
never
up.
affect them. This isn't about you. This is about everybody else
This is
who's.
about criminals.
Yeah.
Criminal 5-year-olds in blue bunny winter hats. They, who is, by the way, the little tiny boy in the blue bunny hat, still in a detention center in Texas, unknown of his status. Is he sad? Is he scared? Does he have food? Does he miss his mom? I bet you he does.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't think about that one too long because I
No.
will not be able to function. So
No. Not at all. It's rough. And so I'm going to say, like, if you don't live in the state, which probably not many of you do, just speak out. Keep speaking out. There's going to be a bunch more general strikes coming that everybody can participate in. I think there's another one being planned for Friday at it's like another I think they're saying no work or school, but Lord knows not everybody can do that, but it's understood. But if you just don't make any purchases that whole day, or if you do support local and don't use your credit cards, paying cash, that's
there's
part
like
of
a
a general
protest
strike.
here where I live in Arizona almost every single day.
There has been here now, at least recently, every
It's
day.
almost like any day. And the other day when I was driving, I saw just two dudes with a fuck Trump sign on the side of the road just by themselves. And it was just like, beep, beep. Yes. Thank you for doing the Lord's work. Like, and there's always something you can do. And I feel like as white people, we have the duty to use our privilege for good and to be the voice of people who don't have the privilege we do. And yes, it's dangerous. So take that as you will. But I just feel like we do need to do something that we can do. There's always something you can do. Speak out. Talk to your Fox News watching family. I don't know. Post things. Go to a protest.
That's
use
the
your
big thing
money
that they've
for
been
good.
talking about here is like there are many things that you can do, and you do what you feel like you can within your own like morality and within your own like ability to like for instance, I love protests and I love yelling and I love getting like I've been to quite a few anti-Trump protests. I've been to women's marches. You and I went to a women's march together. I like that stuff.
Yeah.
But I also recognize that there are certain things that I can't do because I have kids. And I am basically my kid's main parent. And so I'm not going to go, like when they were mobilizing people to go rush to 25th and Nicollet after Alex Preddy got murdered. Obviously, that for me, that's not something I'm going to do because I know that it's going to get escalated and there's going to be tear gas and they're going to be shooting pepper balls and whatever else. And I can't get involved in that because I can't get hurt. I'm the sole breadwinner for my family. But that's where I'm trying to spread the word. Like, this is happening. And if you can donate this and this guy's calling for this need at this place.
But you're bringing the propane tank. Like, there's always something.
There's always something
you can do. And at this point, I just feel like your silence is compliance and there is no excuse for it. Like anybody who is silent right now is just compliant. And I'm not gonna take any excuses to the contrary.
And that goes for like neighbors all the way up to celebrities.
Right.
People should be, there are sides now, and it's either you have a moral compass or you don't. And which side do you want to place yourself on at this moment in history? Because in the future, if you remember in the past, whoever wasn't anti-Nazi was a Nazi. So you make the choice where you're going to sit in history. We'll all sit back and remember who spoke up and who didn't. And then when all the shit's finally cleared up and the Nuremberg Juniors occurred and everybody's been, like sentenced, and unfortunately we don't have gallows anymore, but I feel like maybe we should bring them back for this. I don't know. But like as soon as that's all done, y'all can't just act like you didn't contribute, because you did. And we'll know.
I know. So do you want to do something happy before we get to something else sad again?
Yes. Oh, God, yes. I forgot.
This feels like a hard transition to do to something happy right now. But I feel like we should celebrate little wins when you can.
Yes. In this day and age. Yes, please.
In these days
in this
of our
economy.
Lord. It is our 5-year anniversary at Toxic.
Oh my God.
I wish I could insert the applause sound effect. Maybe I can in post-production. 5 years. Can you believe that? We started this in January of 2021 when we had, get this, Jenna, we had 4-year-olds at home.
Yes. Yes, we did.
We had 4-year-olds. No,
Yes,
wait, I had a 4-year-old. You had...
I had a 5-year-old, but it was kindergarten for my son.
Isn't that bananas?
And he's in middle school now. So.
So crazy.
Yeah, I can't.
So, 5 years. 5 years and we didn't give up. Even though we have like a small but steady listening stream, we make no revenue whatsoever.
Nope.
Podcasting is not going to be something that's going to get you rich or famous. Not that was ever our goal, but we do it because this shit's important. And honestly, we just like talking to each other over.
We do. And we also know that everybody needs to talk about the stuff that we talk about. And sometimes you don't have somebody to talk about this stuff with because you live in a mega household or you whatever. But that's why we're here, because we want to talk about this stuff and at least, try to do it in an entertaining yet educational way. And I mean, like the stuff that I've learned, again, I am merely the end man to Amanda's Johnny. I am not merely the sidekick. The amount of stuff that I've learned and then regurgitated at people, whether or not they liked it or not.
Yeah, I know. You start getting that I know so often. Believe me.
I love it because it's like, I can at least, there are many times, especially in that Are We Dating the Same Guy group on Facebook, where somebody's like, like he was putting his hand on my neck when we were having sex. And I said I didn't like that, but he never really stopped. And then I'm like, oh, I have statistics about why you shouldn't do that and how often that leads to something else. And if you get strangled in a domestic violence situation, it's more likely that he's going to murder you. So you have to leave. Like,
I have the answer.
Yes. Ooh, pick me. I know numbers. I've learned things. I have 5 years of experience.
See, it's so good. And we don't know. There's probably a couple people else. There's a couple other people out there in the world that are doing the same thing, because in 5 years, I have had not that many, but at least a good dozen people tell me, people I know and a couple people I don't know, tell me that they've listened, which is amazing when you're just a podcast among millions of podcasts. Tell me that they've listened to Toxic and that it has done something good for them, or they have laughed with us or something. And then that makes it all worth it, because you just think maybe there will be someone who's listening, will hear one of these stories and know that they're not alone, or that this survivor made it out, or that this could be what their future is, so they want to get out now, or something to that effect. Or they listen to Frosty Nips and it makes their day,
Whatever we could do. I mean, like, we have tried, at least. We know that this is like serious stuff, and it's not the easiest to present without it being a bummer. And we recognize that. And we certainly don't, at least I know that we don't ever try to like make light of anything, because we know this is too serious for that. We try to crack jokes when we can, because you can't stay, especially again in this economy, you can't stay at that level of like depression and anger and solace for as long as you might if you don't take yourself out of it like intentionally.
You really can't. You can't. And I think I hope that's what makes Toxic different, because it's not all depressing. And that's why you're here, because if I did this by myself, I feel like this would be a bore fest. People would be like, oh my God, this is so fucking depressing.
Well, also cracking jokes to yourself is a rough one. Like Brittany Broski is like the only one that I know that can crack herself up and then also make me laugh at the same time. Like that's 10 out of 10. We're sitting at like,
we're not
like,
there yet.
No. I'm not even gonna give us a number.
I never know how to celebrate podcast anniversaries. And we're in separate states. So I did send you a gift, and I made Jenna wait until we were on camera to open it.
It just really came today.
Silly, but just
I don't know what it is. I will tell you,
you're gonna have to go to YouTube to see it.
It's the same shape box that the gold dipped rose that I received from my first serious boyfriend came in. So I'm hoping it's a gold-dipped rose
It's an eternal rose.
that he also told me was supposed to be for an ex-girlfriend of his, but he ended up never giving it to her, so he gave it to me.
He re-gifted.
We'll talk about who that was off the air.
I bet I can guess.
He might have had red hair.
Yep, that's what I was thinking.
Okay, what is
All right.
this? Oh my God, what is this?
I haven't seen it. I just ordered it, so hopefully it looks
I also
good.
haven't seen it, so
I got it off Etsy, if that's any clue.
What does it say?
Oh no.
I'm so sorry. My family's getting over the flu. Thank you for this award. It's a statuette. Friends who
like
are
an
not watching on a
Oscar,
visual
pretty
medium.
much. It's like an
It's
Oscar.
Yes, it really is. And it's not a Dundee, but it's close. It says toxic, 5 years, 0 pay, infinite feminist rage. I love this so fucking much. I'm not even kidding you. This is the greatest thing. This is better than the work award I got last year for being on like a team that did some stuff. And there was a monetary reward with that.
No monetary reward with this one.
No, this is my favorite thing. Wait, can I get close? I know it's probably backwards.
Oh, it looks good.
It's so good. It's so
That's
good.
really cute.
Thank you,
All
my
right,
love.
well, then you have to give your acceptance speech.
I would like to thank all of the horrible, horrible men that we've talked about over the years
They really
for
are.
giving us fodder to talk about.
Yeah.
I would like to thank all the men that aren't pieces of shit, because you
Yeah.
are few and far between.
True that.
But also, spread the word and stop letting your asshole friends be assholes.
Yeah.
And finally, I would like to thank my love, my sister wife, the woman that I will at some point probably cohabitate with, because we are
I hope so.
we are inseparable.
Yeah.
My lovely Amanda. You are my best friend. You invited me to do this thing with you, and somehow I've managed to stick with it for 5 years. This is the longest I've stuck with anything. Like, I don't have habits or like hobbies.
You really don't.
Or anything. I
To be
don't.
To be honest, I'm surprised you've stuck with it for 5 years.
So, I mean, like, let's be honest. I am the most. That's what I was going to say. Bark, bark. I am the one that doesn't update the website all the time. And I also have more crap that interrupts me from being able to do this. But Amanda is the most gracious woman because she accepts the fact that my life is insanity.
I take what I can get. Okay, back to serious business now that we have our celebration over with. Okay.
All right, you know what? I've got
Serious
a
faces.
quarter of the wine left that I started with, so it's just enough to get us through the rest of this recording.
Just enough to get us through the rest of this unhappy story, but an important story, because it's hard to talk about anything else right now other than the horrors of the world. But then as I was writing the script, I was thinking about, like, that's exactly what this administration wants us to do. It wants us to focus on nothing else other than this circus that they're putting on for us, right? Yeah. Like Epstein files times 1,000, but like there's so many things happening besides this. Not that anything is more or less important than anything else, but there's just horrors galore. And one of the things is, of course, the ongoing plight of violence against women. And so that is what we are here to talk about. And one of the stories that I think is important to highlight is a woman named Elizabeth Harding Weinstein. And this is a woman whose story came to a tragic conclusion last July. But I don't think this story should disappear from the headlines. And I just learned about it, so I want to share it with you guys. Elizabeth, or Lizzie, as her friends called her, became well known online as an outspoken advocate against the family court system. She was married to a high-powered and very wealthy lawyer with a net worth in the tens of millions. But when they divorced, he basically left her penniless, because why wouldn't he?
Shocker of all shockers. I was like, I can see where this is going.
When she started speaking out about his abuse, he called her crazy. He took her children, and things got even worse from there. And of course, it was all under the guise of following the law and being in the best interest of the children. And this storyline, as we know, is unfortunately not unique. This is happening to women across the country every day. And this is something that a lot of people outside of this kind of realm of domestic violence find it really hard to believe. They think that if you have evidence of abuse and you go to the family court system, you talk to a judge, you get a lawyer, You're going to tell your side. They're going to believe you. This is not true. I've told countless stories like this. The family court system is broken, or some would say not broken and working the way it was intended to because it was built by men to benefit men, but I think it doesn't work. Whatever way you slice it, it doesn't work.
It's a very flawed system.
Yeah. And this is actually happening to a very good friend of mine right now. Not in the exact same way, but in a very similar way. An abuser with money and power is using the court system to try and call her crazy and to take the children and leave her without any financial recourse to fight with.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like happening in real time in front of my eyes, you know? And then it's happening to other women all across the country. And it's like they all have the exact same playbook.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like I can tell her,
here's what's going to happen
I
next.
know what the next step is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the next step. And I don't like that I'm right with that. And it's not like I'm like, oh, see, it's almost like, my God, do they really have a playbook? Are they on some sort of like the same dark website where they're just
I think it's safe to say that the lawyers that the men hire have the playbook and they know this is a formula that works. And it's a long, painful, arduous process that continuously drags the mom through the mud is essentially what ends up happening.
Yes. And it's about power and control, but it's also a lot about money. It's a lot about money, about keeping the money that you have, and also about the lawyers making money. And it's also about the judges making money and the courts making money. If you remember Jennifer Dulos, we talked about her in episode 45. Her story was similar but different. She too was married to a wealthy and powerful husband. She lived in an affluent Connecticut neighborhood, and she was also abused. And then in 2019, she went missing. Her body has never been found, and her ex-husband Fotis killed himself after police were all, "We're pretty sure you and your girlfriend plotted to kill her." And then he was like, "I'm going to go ahead and just off myself before you can get any further with that." So he kind of got off easy. There's a whole TV documentary about that.
Say, but what about the girlfriend? What happened to her?
Yeah, she went to court and got charged. I don't think she ever went to prison. I think she got off with probation for maybe like helping to commit
co-conspirating, murdering someone. Yeah, you know what?
Don't quote me on that, but I don't think she went to prison.
Go
back and listen to our episode because I think I knew in the episode and I've since forgotten.
And Amanda's talking to me because I need to remember what we talked about because I don't.
I can't.
You know what? We're 100 and some in. We don't know.
Yeah. Our memories don't work for shit.
No, there is none. What memory?
No. But anyway, it's a similar thing. You think that there's a stereotype about DV that it only happens to a certain socioeconomic group, right?
Mm-hmm.
People think that if you're rich, successful, and maybe even white, that
what do you have to fight about if you have money?
Right. If you're like rich, like what problems do you have, right? Or like even if you are abused, you could like easily escape from it because you have these resources.
Just drive away in your Benz and you'll be fine.
Right. And I'm not saying that's not entirely false because if you have money, you do have more access to resources to getting out if you have access to your own money.
I was going to say,
a big thing.
It's got to be your own money, access to separate money that can't be controlled by somebody else, which is always part of the problem here in these cases where the man is some sort of wealthy so-and-so and the wealth comes from him and the wife is given some sort of an allowance. And that's called power and control and financial abuse. And you don't realize it until all of a sudden you realize you got to get out and then the money's gone.
It's like, it reminds me of that movie with Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. Is it Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I think?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like they both realize at the same time that they're spies and then they both start to try to kill each other at the same time in their house, you know? And it's like, it's almost like if you let on that you're about to leave your abuser and you're wealthy, like he better not realize it before you let on that you're leaving. Because then it's like one phone call and you're cut off from all financial resources.
Right, your bank account is emptied and you had no control over it because it was
credit card canceled. Account. Yeah, everything done. So there's so many ways that you think that it's going to be easier if you're wealthy, but it can actually be a lot harder.
I saw something online. It was like one of those "Am I the asshole" kind of things where a woman was like, my fiance is upset finding out that I have a bank account that he didn't know about of savings. And he thinks that we should be full transparency with everything, including finances. And he feels like this is grounds that he wants to have access to my bank statements now and access to all of my accounts because he knows that I'm hiding money. But I'm not hiding money. I just have a savings account set beside because my grandmother said you always need to have your own money. And like everybody in the comments was like, he's the red flag, get rid of him. Like if he wants access to all that, there's a reason. It's because he doesn't trust you.
Yes.
And he wants control.
He wants control.
And it's like, how could you ever, like, because only a man who's either thinking of running or assumes that you will think the worst of why you have a secret savings account. And it's like, well, don't make me use it.
Right.
Simple as that.
I'm married and I have my own credit card. We have shared finances, but I have my own credit card that I can spend on whatever I want. And it's under the guise of like, sometimes I want to buy something, but I don't really want you to see a record of it. Like if it's like a gift or maybe I just want to buy something for myself and I don't really want you to know what it is.
Right,
you know?
exactly. I need a $90 pair of leggings and you don't need to know about it.
And I don't want to feel like I need to explain it, you know? And
No.
he trusts me that I'm not going to overspend or, you know, go buy a boat all of a sudden, you know?
Right.
And that's what a healthy relationship looks like, is like he gets that. So like if you need that, and I think every woman does need their own money, a healthy partner will be like, yeah, absolutely.
So
Especially
ladies,
in this economy,
you need an escape fund.
you need your runaway money.
Yes. Doesn't have to be 3 months. Oh no, 3 months salary is what you're supposed to spend on a ring. Never mind.
You just need something.
Just you know, something, a cab fare to get to a town over, something. Just have your own money somewhere.
I think every woman should just have a little stash of cash somewhere just for something, you know? But that's a whole other episode. Okay. So Lizzie, similarly to, oh my God, what's her name? Jennifer Dulos. Christ. She shared a home with her husband in a place called, get this, Briarcliff Manor. Yeah.
That's a city?
That's a
or is that a subdivision of like, okay, yep.
It's a neighborhood in Westchester County, New York.
That's an HOA.
Yeah. But they have their own, like, I would say it's more than a neighborhood. It has its own like police department. It has its own courthouse. So it's
like a township or something almost.
Yes. Maybe I should have done better research on this.
Well, but you know what? It's done. Wrap it up. You're not going to get the zip code and the government layout of this city so I can properly understand how it's being politically run. No, I'm just kidding.
Maybe it's just the name of the place within Westchester County, New York, but they just named everything after it because Briarcliff Manor sounds so fancy. So they're just like,
sounds like a soap opera.
Briarcliff Manor. Yeah.
Briarcliff Manor.
It's about 30 miles outside of New York City. When I looked this up, pictures of this, it is a village. I wrote down village. Oh my God. So it's a village. Is that different than a town? You know what it is.
You know what? I think it means maybe it's incorporated or it's not incorporated. I don't know. There's technicalities. I'm not interested.
No, it does. We're all on the same page here. This story. But anyway, pictures of this place the houses look like legit stone castles. Like it looks like England. So if that gives you any idea of like what they were going for with Briarcliff Manor. So it's suburban. It's got big houses, rich people, good schools, low crime rate. Right.
Very white.
It's not the place, right? Of course, very white. It's not the place where you would think domestic violence is happening. And that makes it a good place for domestic violence to hide.
100%.
Because if someone says that their husband is being abusive, they're going to be like, not in Briarcliff Manor, you know?
That's not allowed in the township ordinances of Briarcliff.
Lizzie was married to a man named Brian Stryker Weinstein. He's a senior litigation partner at Davis, Polk, and Wardell.
Is Stryker his middle name, or did he dub himself Stryker? Is that like a quotes?
No, I think it's either a middle name or two last names.
Wow. Okay.
Stryker Weinstein.
He really appreciates that Stryker. I can imagine.
I bet he has people call him Stryker.
Yeah.
My name's
call
Brian
me Strike.
Weinstein. Just call me Strike. And yet his clients included Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan Chase, BT Group, E-Trade. So that's where the money's coming from, right? And then just to to speak to his morals, he sat on the board of the Keenan Institute for Ethics at Duke University. So real stand-up guy. So again,
he's giving the optics of being a very great rich person with ethics. Look at me.
Finance bro on a board. Before they married, Lizzie graduated from Columbia University, so she's a smarty as well, with a degree in nursing, and she worked as an ER nurse. But after she and Brian had children, 3 in total, she became a stay-at-home mom, a job that she held for over 17 years before things started to go awry. Or one could probably assume they were going awry a long time before things went publicly awry. But we don't have a lot of details about that. In May of 2020 is when we first know that things publicly started to go wrong. That's when
Which is not shocking, because I think that we talked about this maybe in some of our earlier episodes, that like the pandemic was a stressor on everybody, and people who were already in tumultuous relationships, you either repaired the problems that you had to get through it together because you were stuck with each other, or it went bad quickly.
Yeah. This is when the couple's children were 13, 16, and 17. And Elizabeth, or Lizzie, said that she discovered that her husband had, quote, this is her words, engaged in pedophilia. She said that he had a history of pedophilia in his childhood and that he wanted to get help. He said, according to her, he didn't want to hurt the children anymore.
Their children?
Yeah.
Ah!
Yeah. And
No!
these are her words. So it's interesting that throughout her disclosure of this, so this story gets complicated because throughout her disclosure of this, she talks about it being pedophilia, which is interesting because most people would call it sexual abuse.
Child sexual abuse or something.
Right. But she never really goes into any detail. Not that we necessarily need it to believe her, but I'm just saying I would have thought that we would have called it sexual abuse.
This is her own defense mechanism to not, like, I think it's like if she draws the line with language, it somehow draws a line mentally, maybe. And makes it stay out of a category that she is not willing to accept or something, because I've heard of that before. I mean, she's kind of gaslighting herself, right? Like a little bit. Like it's a little bit of like, right. By saying that
engaging in pedophilia might be more like
that sounds like it's not his kids.
More though. Yeah.
It's other people's kids, but if it's his own.
And it could be. We don't have,
I suppose.
Throughout this, she never, and again, this is not at all a blaming her in any way. I'm just stating facts. She doesn't bring forth any sort of details or proof of any kind of these pedophilia charges or accusations.
But just
we don't really know.
Her husband is a piece of shit and he likes little kids in inappropriate ways.
Yes. Which should be enough to raise a big...
That'll do it.
And then from that moment on that she says this, instead of the law protecting her and her children, her high-powered lawyer husband uses his influence in the court system as well as his financial standing to silence her in every way possible and paint her basically as an insane person. So that's his goal going forward.
Sorry, did you say that does he not admit to this stuff, but he just says that she's nuts in claiming these things?
Right. So according to her, he first admits to it, says he wants to get help, and then immediately backtracks on that and then reverses that position and says, absolutely not, you're insane, and I'm going to fight you on this. Yeah. So, by the way, the sources that I used to help tell Lizzie's story today include an episode of the Save Our Children podcast from May of 2021, where hosts Bridget and Becky, now I'm sure of their last names because it appears their podcast is no longer in production. They interviewed Lizzie, and I tried to figure out who they were exactly, but I couldn't find any other details, so I apologize for that. But they're on YouTube if you want to see their podcast, Save Our Children. So a lot of this that I pulled from is in Lizzie's own words. And the rest is from various news articles about what happened, as well as a website called thefrankreport.com, which is a site of this independent investigative journalist who followed Lizzie's story.
Oh, interesting.
And then at the end of the summary of Lizzie's story, we're also going to share a conversation I had with Natalie Blundell. She's the founder of WeSpoke.org, which is an online collective of women who have witnessed or experienced the systemic failure of family court and matrimonial courts during divorce or child custody litigation. And Lizzie was active with We Spoke, and Natalie knew her personally and has some insight to share on what she thinks happened to her. So please stick around for Natalie's words. So Lizzie discloses that there is this sexual abuse happening, and she would later say that she also sought help for domestic violence, specifically for what she called narcissistic abuse, for almost the last 7 years from a local domestic violence agency. And Natalie tells me that she didn't hear anything about this, but she thinks it could be entirely true and that Lizzie just never disclosed this to her. Lizzie reports to the local police about the pedophilia. But of course, Brian's not arrested because why would he be? I don't think that I don't know if she had proof or she didn't have sufficient proof, or I don't know what, maybe he hid the proof. I have no fucking clue because there's not enough details.
Well,
but anyway,
if he just told her they can't arrest him based on nothing, there has to be evidence or he has to admit to it. And if there's neither, then there's no charges to be pressed or arrests to be made, which is really unfortunate and almost like it definitely feels like he admitted what he was doing in a moment of weakness because he didn't want to be that person anymore.
Yeah.
And then fully recognized what that meant for the rest of his life and backtracked before he gave any more details to the point where it could be dangerous for him.
Yeah, he's like, screw this. Actually, I don't want to admit
I bet
to
he
that.
felt really good after he finally kind of admitted it, and then it all came rushing and like, this is your life now. Like, you don't get access to your family. You are going to go to prison. Your name's going to be all over everything. Everybody who trusted you with their money, that's all gone. Like, also, and like, who even knows? Again, like, we don't know the extent of who was involved, and so like, it could have gone. Are we talking about an Epstein thing? We don't know.
I mean,
so who knows?
A high-powered person in New York. Who knows if he
high finance
would be on the Epstein list? I mean, regardless, like, he also had a lot of power and influence. If there was evidence of this, he could easily have made it disappear. He could have easily gotten in front of this story with law enforcement. He could easily know people in power and be like, don't believe my wife, she's crazy. And that's exactly the road he goes down after this, because he tries to have Lizzie admitted to a psychiatric institute. She says that he hired someone to falsify medical documents saying that she was crazy. But when that didn't work, he went to the court system. And she's trying to get him to be investigated for this pedophilia thing, he somehow gets a protection order against her, which involves getting her evicted from their home and gives him custody of their 3 children. And this was in June.
God, again, like you said, I'm sitting here like, I've heard this. I've heard this story before where the man tries to say that the woman is nuts. Yeah. And honestly, sorry, not sorry, it was definitely a Law and Order episode. Like, if it's enough of a pattern for Law and Order to be like, we got to do an episode on this. Like, it's...
Yes. Because it reminds me of like a Chinese finger trap where it's like, the more you resist, the more you say, no, I'm not crazy, and you start to rage against these accusations, the more you honestly kind of sound crazy, right? And they're like, look how emotional she is. And you're like, but you're kicking me out of my house. You're stealing my children. And this is exactly kind of how I think Lizzie started coming across. It's like, she's panicking. She's angry. She's like, no one believes me. Like, she's feeling like she's probably in like some Twilight Zone episode, right? And so, yeah, she seems like she's losing it because she is losing it.
She's losing it, but in a sane way.
Yeah. That's the thing with so many domestic violence survivors in general, is that they are so traumatized and then they get plopped into a court and the judge is like, why are you acting so crazy and traumatized?
The misogyny of the court.
Yeah.
Because and again, we've talked about women against women not recognizing that they're playing into like,
yes,
misogynist ideas where they see a woman who is emotional and possibly hysterical and they're like, well, she's not fit to parent. Look at her. She doesn't have her shit together. She can't even sit here and tell me what's going on without like hyperventilating. Like, why would she be able to take care of her kids? And it's like,
and raging. Yeah. It takes a feat of monumental strength to hold your shit together and talk sanely and politely and, calmly about
while you're having lies being spoken about you.
Yeah. Someone right next to you that may have abused you or sexually abused your children. And the judge was like, I don't really know. No, never mind. I believe
you know what? You raised your voice once. No good.
No,
No
I'll
good.
go with
Everything
you.
you said is out the window. Custody goes to dad.
That's exactly, and it sounds like that's exactly what happened to Lizzie. So he allegedly submitted a 150-page document claiming that Lizzie was suffering from an untreated mental disorder. And the judge was all, okay, like, this is probably
Did
too
he
much
not
to
even-
read.
He didn't even order like an examination by a psychologist or a psychiatrist. He was just like,
No.
you know what? Sounds
She-
good. Your armchair diagnosis is good enough for me. There's a lot of words here.
Did he write it? Did he get ChatGPT to write? Well, this is right before ChatGPT.
But also like he has enough money to like be like, hey, you know about like the, what is it called? The DSM 5000 or whatever the hell it is. Write something about my soon to be ex-wife about how she's an unfit mother and nuts.
Right. Which is so convenient for him now, because anything that she accuses him of, he can be like, well, obviously she's crazy because she just was ordered by a court to stay away from me and her children because she's crazy. So
Right.
his case is closed, basically, right? For 11 months, she has no access to her children, and she's not allowed back home to get any of her things. She's basically thrown out of her house with the clothes on her back, rendered homeless with no financial support,
Oh my God.
even though they made upwards of $5 million a year. She has nothing. So she does what?
How does he do that? Like, are they divorced at this point, or are they like, is this just custody battles, or are they trying to like get through the
They're
divorce?
not even divorced. She's still
Jesus
trying
Christ.
to file divorce papers, and it's getting, I don't
Right.
even know if it's getting
All this,
locked
I'm
or
sure all
they
this
push
crap
back.
is clogging it up and not able to even get to that point.
Right. So in January, she goes to the court. That was in June. So in January of the following year, she goes to the
2022.
courthouse to file complaint paperwork against the judge that she didn't get due process. And this was when COVID was still kicking, and they said that she had to be wearing a mask in order to go into this courtroom. So maybe this was still 2021.
That's been
Getting my
21.
years mixed
Yeah.
up. Yeah. So she wasn't wearing a mask, and she said that she had a medical exception for not wearing one or whatever. And instead of reprimanding her or fining her or something, they arrested her.
For not wearing a mask?
Right. In this Briarcliff Manor courthouse.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
She claimed that she was thrown against a wall by large police officers, restrained and taken to Westchester County Medical Center, where she was strip searched and shackled, put under suicide watch, denied legal counsel, and then placed in solitary confinement for not wearing a mask. Yeah. Because they knew her. She says it was because they knew her, right?
And they knew the story. Well, I mean, like,
Yeah.
And
they probably knew her
it should have dawned on me, but for some reason it didn't, that this little Briar Crest bullshit had its own like courthouse with judges, because like
the rich people want to
regardless,
rule
like,
themselves.
they also like never stood a chance outside of there anyways. But like, if it's this small town bullshit,
Yeah.
the judges are all fucking paid for in those places. Like, I'm sure you
100%.
can find some examples of some straight judges, whatever. But like, there's no way that these guys are not all just paid off. Like, there's no way. Like, you talk, like, just as an aside, of course, now I'm going to totally fucking forget the name of the fucking family, the crime family that was just in the thing where like the son was a murderer.
Gambino?
And the dad was a murderer. I don't know. Anyways,
The
like,
Godfather movies.
not the Godfather movies. No, this is real life. Like, it's the no, not those shows. Hold on, listen. I'm pulling this up because I was just listening to it on last podcast. The Murdaugh family, Murdaugh
Oh,
family.
yeah, Murdoch.
So like, it's the same thing where like they were all lawyers and judges, and everybody was bought and paid for,
Yes.
and like through generations. And like, that may not be the case here, but if this guy has the money that he has in this little fancy schmancy community, there is no way that the judges weren't paid off. And if they weren't paid off, it was to stay in good favors with the rich people so that they don't get kicked out of social circles and stuff. Like, it's
or that they get reelected. Yeah.
corruption.
Yeah. So she was arraigned the next day, but she denied a psych eval that the judge had ordered.
Oh.
So then she claims that the judge remanded her to be there for several weeks. On the podcast that she was on, she says 7 weeks, but I couldn't confirm this, nor did Natalie, her friend at We Spoke, know for sure how long she spent in there. There's some conflicting reports here because there was a second time that Natalie knows that Lizzie was arrested. And so this is where it gets a little bit fuzzy with the records. I just want to disclaim this, that
Mhm.
I'm not sure exactly how these overlap. But there was this second time that Lizzie was arrested, and this was in July of 2022. Lizzie's son got into college, and she still hasn't had any access to her kids, right?
Mhm.
And she apparently left some balloons and a card on his car to let him know that she loved him and missed him. And Brian, her ex-husband, reports this as a violation of the restraining order. Is it? I mean, technically, yes. Is it threatening? Doesn't really seem so. But again,
he is tickled pink to be able to call the cops and
oh my
say,
God,
"Look what she
he's
did!
so excited. He's
Look what
so
she did!"
excited. I mean,
This
this is
isn't like
classic. Yeah,
it's not a
this is
sad
classic.
mom being like, I just wanted to wish my baby a happy birthday. Like, it's not. There's no empathy. Again, no empathy or compassion. Oh my God, am I going to nail you for this?
She hasn't seen her kids in 2 years at this point. I mean, I can't imagine not being able to see your kids for 2 years
During
and
very
what that must
pivotal
feel like.
years where they're like,
And just getting into college.
right.
And your asshole husband hasn't even let you. I mean, even if, let's just suspend reality for a second and say that maybe even if she was suffering from any kind of mental problems, you would think that the husband would still be like, oh, I feel for this. Like she's suffering from mental health illness, mental health disorders. Still gonna let my kids write to her, have a phone call
Right.
with her, something like
Mhm.
that, right? The
Or
fact that there's
supervise something.
absolutely no communication shows cruelty to me.
Mhm.
That shows power, control, and cruelty.
Mhm.
And the fact that he reports balloons in a card on the son's car as a violation of a restraining order,
Mhm.
so that she gets arrested. I
Mhm.
mean, so they do arrest her and they take her to jail. And then they admit her to, and oh my God, I can't tell you how many times I have talked to survivors who, female survivors who have restraining orders against their male abusers, and the male abusers show up at their place of work or drive past their house
Send
10
them
times
flowers.
a day, send them flowers, ring their doorbell, call them
Mhm.
100 times, do obvious things to stalk them,
And
and
violate the
police do
restraining order.
nothing. Yeah. Police do absolutely nothing because they
They'll show
say,
up and be like, "Oh, well, he's not here."
let me know when he's actually here. Let me know when he harms you.
Mhm.
So you want me to call you after I'm dead? Okay, cool.
Oh, he's
I'll
just
do that.
trying to get your attention. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. But Briarcliff Manor police, they are
Hey.
on it. They are there. So they arrest her immediately because this cannot stand. A mother
Do you
leaving
know
balloons on her son's car
what
cannot
Mylar balloons
stand.
can do to a child? They can
I
choke on it. A college-age child. You don't put balloons in a
Whales could
crib.
choke on it. They're near the ocean. They're thinking of the
Tangled up in
seaway.
that string. What are you doing? The
God.
ribbon. Won't you think of the ribbon? Danger.
After she goes to jail, she is then admitted to the Rockland Psychiatric Hospital. Natalie says that she tried to visit her there but was denied access, and then she believes Lizzie was there for at least 6 weeks, maybe as many as 8. Involuntarily admitted to a psychiatric hospital for balloons and a card.
And maybe Natalie will answer this, but I assume that she's like, Lizzie was never nuts. Like, Lizzie never had mental health problems. Lizzie did not need to be institutionalized.
Lizzie never thought she did. We can't say for certain.
Okay.
Because she did not consent to psychiatric evaluation. Let's just put it
Right.
there.
So she was never diagnosed with anything, but nobody ever, it seems like nobody else was like, oh, well, she had some
No.
mental health issues.
Right. Nobody in her circle of supporters and friends, and she was very vocal online, that I could find raised issues about it. There were
Mhm.
people who were on the pro-Brian side who are like,
sure.
well, she's crazy, because that's an easy thing to say. But when you hear her on podcasts, she sounds very, very sane. She sounds very coherent. There's
Mhm.
nothing to me that raises a red flag that says that this woman doesn't know what she's talking about. But again, no one can say for sure.
Right.
But here's something really concerning that I read. when she was placed in the psychiatric hospital against her wishes involuntarily, she was involuntarily medicated with Haldol, which is a
Paladol?
Halidol? Sorry.
Mhm.
A strong antipsychotic that is generally used to treat serious schizophrenic disorders. Per the internets, the use of Halidol may cause a life-threatening adverse reaction called catalepsy, a trance-like state for which there is no antidote. It can also
Cataplexy?
catal
Is there a P in there?
yeah.
Cataplexy. Yeah.
Well, there's no cata.
Oh,
It's
right.
catalepsy. Catalepsy, it looks like. You know how good I am at pronouncing.
Catalepsy. Yep, you did it. Yay!
Catalepsy. It puts you in a trance. It can also cause tardive. I'm never going to pronounce this right. Tardive
Tardive dyskinesia.
Oh, look at you.
I know that.
Dyskinesia.
That's where your muscles just randomly twitch and
Yes. Mild to severe twitching, shaking, or jerking in the hands, feet, face, and torso, which may be permanent.
I will tell you, because I've seen ads for it, but also because I've actually had it before. I've had mental health medication give me tardive dyskinesia before. Like it was like an
Really?
ADHD medication gave it to me. It's really, really messed up because you'll be sitting around and all of a sudden you're just like,
This
oh,
isn't maybe
excuse me.
permanent, though.
It can be permanent. It can be permanent, but if it's medication induced, if you stop the medication soon enough, it won't be permanent. But there's a medication on the market just to get rid of that symptom alone because it's such a common symptom with mental health medications, SSRIs and stuff.
Regardless, it feels like this should not be given to her without her permission, nor should any drug.
No, well, and if you start experiencing a side effect from it, that's when they say, okay, this is not for you. Let's move you to something else. And that clearly, if she was voicing an issue with the medication, it was not being heard.
I mean, what's the point of putting someone in a psych ward for mental issues only to send them out with more mental issues? It feels like the prison system, right? Like you go in a criminal and come out like an even better criminal. Like,
you know
are
what
you
else it
fixing
feels
anything?
like? When they would send women to insane asylums and whatnot for being hysterical because they were getting their period, and they'd come out with, what the fuck is it called? Thank you. Look at me trying to like symbolize the, this.
With the brain.
One of these?
Scrambled. Yeah.
But it's the same thing where like there was nothing wrong with you and you came out a vegetable because they decided there was something wrong with you. And that almost sounds like that's what happened here is like
at least you were quiet. I think that's the whole point, right?
You no longer were hysterical, and that's all that matters. And that's maybe how it was here too. They were just like, well, clearly there's something wrong with you. We don't know what it is. So maybe like, oh, now you're quiet, but it turns out you're cataplectic.
Yeah. Lizzie said that on the podcast, she said that her husband wanted her to admit that she was mentally ill and needed inpatient psychiatric care. And those were his conditions for letting her see her kids again. So he was trying to say that if she admitted that, she would then be able to see her children, but he would be able to deny her claims of child sexual abuse or pedophilia, as she references it. And I guess she wasn't going to do
Let that go.
Yeah. But Natalie told me that after Lizzie got out of that 7 weeks of psychiatric care, she says, quote, I recall she was pretty shaken up when she was released and scared with the power these people had over her. So she toned down everything from that point on, meaning there weren't as many public postings of things, which is what they wanted to do, right? They wanted to silence her. And
they
so
shut
she
her
was
up.
a little bit quieter.
She got shut up.
Yeah. It should be noted that Lizzie filed a federal lawsuit against the judge, the DA, and the village for basically committing her to the psych ward for no discernible reason and without due process. And I found a copy of that lawsuit online. Unfortunately, it was thrown out under the guise of judicial and prosecutorial immunity, which I didn't know was a thing, meaning that you cannot sue a judge or a DA if they're doing their job. So you could sue them if they did something wrong.
Who's deciding that they're doing their job?
Courtroom. If they're in the courtroom, they can do whatever the fuck they want. So even if they're in the courtroom and the judge like throws a pen at you and it like goes to your eyeball, I think that you can't sue them because they're doing their job in the courtroom. But if they're like outside the courtroom and they like shove you against a wall or something,
rear end you, and they're like, I'm a judge. Bye.
I think it's an extreme example, but they literally have immunity while doing their job.
How do they ever get rid of corrupt judges then? If they're
You vote
always
them out,
I suppose.
And I think, there's obviously, I think there's a board you can report to, but I don't think it probably does shit because this system hasn't been fixed. which, I mean, ultimately means no checks and balances. This is how women get screwed over. all the
What?
time.
No checks and balances? We don't know what that's like.
No, not for men in power. No
Not in
checks
this
and
economy.
balances. That's what this episode's going to be called. Sadly, one of the posts that I read by Lizzie on Facebook said, quote, "Where are you, my babies? Are you safe? How is this allowed? Kidnapping sweet babies is the most cruel and inhumane thing to do to a loving parent. I miss you with unspeakable pain. I have to stop this from happening to others." She
This
would
also
post-
sounds very close. I mean, not, certain points aside, but this sounds very close to what we talked about with From One Mom's Battle about Josh Homme and Brody Dow,
Yeah.
about what's happening there, where there's a lot of like, you are an unfit mother.
Yeah.
I think Brody still hasn't seen her kids, and it's been like, I want to say like 5 or 6 years now. Like, it's been a really long time.
We should
And she's
follow up
still
on that.
fighting.
Shit. At one point, Lizzie posted a photo online of her children with their grandfather, her ex's father, and said that her children were afraid of him too, insinuating the history of sexual abuse was generational.
Ugh.
This is the tipping point for Brian to petition the court so he goes a step further now. He petitions the court to place Lizzie under a conservatorship.
How? He has nothing to do with her anymore. They're not even married.
I guess because they share children. And assign her a guardian, claiming her online postings support his allegations that she's suffering from schizophrenia. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So just like Brittany, she gets a guardian. Now, it should also be noted at this point that her children were in court and they denied their mother's allegations of sexual abuse by their father. But before anyone's all, well, there you go. I mean, you say that kids don't lie. We should believe kids. You have to understand that kids don't lie when they're telling the truth about abuse, but kids do hide abuse when they're afraid of getting in trouble for disclosing abuse. These are two very separate things. And I'm not saying I know for sure what happened. Not at all. I'm saying that we can't conclude that it didn't happen without the children undergoing separate and private evaluations, which I'm not sure happened. There's no record of that happening at all. They were in court in front of their accused abuser, asking if he abused them.
Right.
And then they would have to go back home with them.
Right. I was going to say, for some of them, they still lived with him, and or he is supporting them financially. Yeah. And seemingly at this point, the only family that they have.
Right. So what do you think they're going to say? That's a ridiculous position to put any person in, much less a child. Just put them on the spot and point blank say, did this happen?
Hey, that guy over there that's going to make your life miserable if you tell a truth about him. Did he do this bad thing? Oh, he didn't? Okay. Like, what?
Cool. Like, what person is going to be like, yeah, this is the time that I feel safe to disclose horrible things?
Child or adult. If you think that the person that is like possibly your abuser might at any point like get retribution for anything that you've said, you will not say anything.
No.
It's the same reason why abuse goes hidden for so long, is because people don't want to suffer the consequences of their abuser finding out that they've been told on. Because look at what happened to their mom.
Yeah. Yeah. So the judge, who, by the way, at this point, the judge, I don't know if she was all along, but the judge at this point for the conservatorship is a woman. Her name is Janet Malone. She ordered that Lizzie be put under a conservatorship and that her guardian be this lawyer named Kenneth Bunting. And I couldn't find out much about him or why she chose him, besides the fact that he's a Republican who ran for Westchester Family Court judge in 2017 and 2020 and lost both times. So take that for what you will. Like, were they
Seems like a real stand-up dude.
I know. Like, I don't understand. She just randomly chose a person. She's like, him, this man right here. I thought you would choose something that she knew. Ken took it upon himself to cancel Lizzie's lawsuits against the court, against everybody. They were already
how convenient is
I think
that?
she had other lawsuits. Yeah. And she attests that he also canceled spousal support and closed all her financial accounts, further limiting her ability to provide both basic necessities for herself, but likely and more importantly, limiting her ability to access legal help to fight any of this.
So she had to basically ask him for money.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like Ken might be in cahoots with Brian. Maybe
They
those
might.
are
Oh my God, do they all know each other? What?
It's kind of like they might know each other.
Almost like they all are
Um,
bankrolled by the same dude who happens to be her ex-husband.
I can't believe like this. This just feels like one horror after
What
the
a
other
nightmare.
for Lizzie. It just none of this is going in her favor. So 3 years go by, and Lizzie continues to speak out through advocacy groups like We Spoke and rally against family courts, offering support to women in similar situations to hers, of which there are so many. As far as I know, she's never allowed access to her children again. So I just feel like the only thing I I can surmise that she feels like she can do is to keep fighting and keep speaking out, less publicly than through Facebook posts, but more through these groups. And the people who knew her and the people that posted about her through my research through these online groups all had the most positive things to say about her and how supportive she was of all of their battles as well. But she constantly would say that she felt like she was in danger and still under attack from both her ex and the court system and the legal system and even the local police. In one video she posted, Lizzie reportedly said, quote, "I'm alive right now, but I don't know how much longer I will be." And friends say that she wasn't suicidal. She was alluding to her safety. And then on July 6th of last year, Lizzie Weinstein's body was found at a hotel in Danbury, Connecticut. Initially investigated as suspicious circumstances, the case was eventually closed and the cause of death determined to be sudden cardiac death of undetermined etiology, which basically means they don't know why her heart stopped.
Right. She just stopped existing.
Yeah.
And
In
they don't know why.
essence, it was suicide with a big question mark next to it. Even though those close to Lizzie say she was not suicidal, she was a fighter and she wanted to continue to fight. She was 53 years old. And of course, with her died any claims against her husband, silencing yet another woman and mother.
Wow.
So, was she suffering from mental health issues? Was she being abused? Can the two not overlap?
Were the kids being abused?
Yeah.
Was the dad a piece of shit?
I mean, yes is the answer. Like, those two can definitely not overlap. The documentation online is limited and suspect at best. What is true and what has been altered, scrubbed, etc., is still under question. It's like the whole truth will never be known, which is why when some like Lizzie speak up, we have an obligation to listen before something like this happens. We have to get to them sooner. The court is not their safe place. In some cases, yes, you'll get a good judge, a good attorney, and they know DV, but
it's luck of the draw.
I know. Never would I tell a survivor, oh, don't worry, the family court will work out. Just go take your evidence there.
Right. The evidence is in your favor.
I wouldn't.
No.
And just a quick plug, I'm working on a story right now that'll be out next week, the first week of February, on domesticshelters.org about finding a good domestic violence lawyer. I spoke with experts. It has some really solid tips, questions to ask, even a script to use when you make those initial calls to lawyers. So pass that on. Don't get bamboozled by the lawyers on billboards on the side of highways.
Do not get domestic violence chaser lawyers.
To understand, just how fucked up this really was, let's hear from one of Lizzie's supporters and advocates now, Natalie, if you want to hear from her. All right, now we are very honored to welcome on Natalie Blundell. Natalie founded a local support group in 2017, feeling the dire need for support for women experiencing post-separation abuse and litigation abuse. From her 30-year career in the finance industry, Natalie was struck by the lack of checks and balances in the family court system, aren't we all? Leading to her to launch We Spoke in 2022, a national online peer-to-peer women's support community. Natalie is trained as a domestic abuse counselor as well as in strangulation and lethal assessment. She is a sought-after commentator on the rights of women going through the family court system and is the host of Chat in the Commons podcast. First off, welcome to Toxic, and I'm sorry it's taken 5 years to have you on and find We Spoke. Every time I locate on the World Wide Web another woman doing this kind of extraordinary work to help women who are caught in the cycle of violence, both from an intimate partner and then through the court system, it feels like astounding, but also hopeful that there are just more of us out there. Though I'm sure, much like I feel many days, you probably feel like you're pushing a boulder up Mount Everest, like
a big
every single day.
boulder. Thank you both for inviting me onto Toxic. You're doing great work and getting that
Yeah, thank
message
you.
out. Absolutely. We continue to just grind all of the women out there across not only the country, but the world to try to somehow counter violence against women in all its facets. And it still continues, and there's still shocking stories every day. So it does feel futile a lot of the time. And it is women's work for the most part. It's mostly women as far as advocates and trying to help other women.
Yeah. We're saving ourselves every day.
Mm.
So earlier on Toxic, my co-host Jen and I told our listeners about Lizzie and what she endured. She sought help from We Spoke before her death. Can you tell us, because you spoke to her, what do people not know about Lizzie?
Lizzie was a fireball. Like the minute you met her, and I met her in 2021 when she was introduced by another member of my support group. Met her online. Obviously, it was COVID. So we would have our support meetings online. And she was such a huge presence in the room and the virtual room. And then later on when I met her in person in the physical room. A lot of incredible energy, extremely positive, quite a chatterbox. She was really kind of the light and center of the room. And I think she had such a big personality. When I did meet her in person in 22, I think it was, she's so small. She's a tiny little thing, tiny small frame, small height. I was like, wow, you're a pip. That's what I would call her.
Pip.
A pip. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, a great woman and human being. Yeah.
So her death must have had quite an impact on you and come as quite a shock.
Yeah, when it happened last summer, I probably hadn't seen her or even spoken to her in maybe close to a year. Just we're in different circles. There are my dogs. No, wait one moment. Just wait one sec. Different circles. We actually lived literally like a couple of towns apart. I'm in Westchester, New York, and she was currently living in Fairfield County in Connecticut. So, 10 minutes literally up the road, but we didn't see each other too much in person. So I didn't believe it. When I heard it, I thought, no, this has to be, not a joke, but just really fake news or something. And not Lizzie. Lizzie was strong, competent, intelligent, very heartful type of woman, healthy, very healthy. So it was just like, something's wrong, something happened. Like when I realized it was true, it seemed so suspicious to me to hear that news.
Because you said that there weren't any signs leading up to this, right? A lot of people said that they were shocked by this. They didn't believe that she could have taken her own life.
She didn't take her own life. No, for sure. Mm-hmm. No.
So you started We Spoke, and we'll circle back to that.
Sure.
But you started We Spoke to help women like Lizzie, find a place where they would know that they're not alone when they begin to navigate the court system when divorcing an abuser. As much as you want to share, did this arise from your own personal experience?
No, interestingly, I never sat inside a family court for my divorce. Fortunately, I've actually been married 3 times and had 2 normal divorces. And my third was your turn now. Well, you can go on mute when I'm talking.
Oh, that's true.
But so the third, I did experience some post-separation abuse, but was really lucky to be able to navigate that through a mediator, which is kind of unheard of, and was able to, again, not step inside a family courtroom. But at the time, I started the support group called Karuna in 2017. And it was local. We would have women just stop by. I mean, kind of an affluent community. And there's even more shame when your marriage doesn't work out and you've got your textbook, 2.5 children and the dog and the nice white picket fence. A lot of women don't want to admit there's problems at home. If there's any kind of abuse, they definitely don't want to. They have no community because the community is picture perfect, really. So I found it was necessary to have a safe space for women to come talk about what they were going through, not just in a divorce, but women that were experiencing some kind of abuse, whether that be psychological or financial or sexual. So that's how Karuna started. And then the objective wasn't for women to get divorced, but many did. And then they started telling me about stories about their attorneys, their divorce attorneys. They would share in the group. They'd also share about family court stories. And they would say it. And I was thinking, this can't be real. Like, as an outsider, never stepped inside the family court system. I was like, there's no way this is happening. I questioned it, just being a layperson in the public. But then I started hearing like a woman come and she'd say, such and such judge in Westchester County. And I'd say, that happened to one of the other members. I'm going to connect you. So I started realizing I was connecting so many women together that there seemed to be patterns. And that's when I was like, something's off here. Something's really off. And then I went to court watch for one of our support members at Karuna, Catherine Kasanoff, who was involved in a case and who had been attending my meetings. And that's kind of when it blew it out the water, when I saw firsthand what's going on behind these kind of sealed doors, closed doors. And Catherine actually came to live with me for 4 months because she was displaced from her own home. And we'd started an advocacy group within Karuna before that. But then when she came, I was like, no, we need to really start a full-on basically litigation abuse and family court support group. So that's how We Spoke started it in January 2022. And Lizzie was part of that. So Lizzie was part of Karuna for the emotional support of just, your marriage breaking up and also losing access to your children, not being able to see them. So she did attend a few of the support groups and then was part of We Spoke.
Yeah. And Lizzie, as we know, had 3 children. Do all the women who seek help on We Spoke, are they all mothers?
For the most part, yes. We've had a few that were didn't have children or had stepchildren with their former partners, but for the most part, yeah, everyone was a mother, and it's an all women's group. I want to point out. No,
Sure.
There are some men that go through this, but it's disproportionate what's happening to women in these.
Right. Yeah, and we do get that argument sometimes. Why don't you include men in this discussion of survivors more often? And it's not that they can't be survivors, because they certainly can. Any gender can be survivors or abusers. But like you said, disproportionately, it's women who are fighting this battle against men. And so this is the group that needs the most attention right now. Can you talk a little bit about how sharing children with an abusive partner adds another layer of complication when they're trying to escape?
Well, yeah, I often feel that the part of the abuse, it all falls under the umbrella of control. Many times that shows up as coercive control, where you're being gaslit, you're being coerced in all different ways while you're in that relationship. So that abuse has been planning for quite some time. It's not like a sudden thing. Part of their abuse is manipulating you, controlling you, making you financially dependent on them. So I feel like, they've had those secret bank accounts for a long time. They've been doing things without you knowing, making sure the mail is either paperless, it doesn't come to the house, or it's been going to the office, things that you're completely unaware of. Many of my members have had spouses that had completely separate lives. completely had
Yeah.
like a girlfriend and a child or children in another state and would say they would be going for travel on business so many times. I've got to go down there, I've got to meet clients, wine and dine. Poor me. Makes me think of the Coldplay concert suddenly.
Oh my gosh, right?
Right. Where they just probably told the wife at home, just, I got to go on this business dinner tonight. And he's, at Coldplay with his girlfriend. So it's definitely a struggle. There's when you wake up to the fact or admit to yourself that you're in an unhealthy relationship, a toxic relationship, that you want a divorce for whatever reason. Everyone has that wake up moment. Every woman, I believe. When you get to that point, you have to realize they've been planning and scheming for a long time, and you're playing catch up because you're scrambling. You're dealing with the emotions, but also the fear of everything. And they're going to come in hard and make the threats like, if you leave me, you're going to pay. If you leave me, you're never going to see your children again. And many men do make good on that threat. They really do.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they know that there's nothing more devastating to a mother than the thought of losing her children, especially losing her children to someone that they're not safe with. I mean, it's the whole bear in the woods analogy, right? I mean, honestly, I'd rather hand your children over to a bear in the woods than an abuser.
And these men know that. They know what's most important to them is control and money. Okay. And probably public appearance. What's the only thing a woman wants during this is to make sure her kids are safe, even more than making sure she's safe.
Yes.
Kids come first to a mother, and they know that, and they manipulate that.
The number of survivors I've spoken to who said to me, sometimes I think I should have just stayed and taken the beatings, because then I could have been with my children and I could have kept them safe, even though as much as you try to point out to them, but you don't know that for sure. You don't know that you would be alive today. You don't know that they would be alive today. But I get it as a mom. I get it.
It does escalate. So what can start as, emotional abuse and coercive control and, just it can escalate eventually into physical abuse and then femicide or familicide. And most of these cases of familicide and femicide, they were never physically abusive before that. That first time that they were physically abusive was when they killed, when they murdered.
Because they were losing control. Yeah. Yeah. It sucks. And back to another thing that sucks, family court, which is, I think, widely assumed by a lot of people who have never been in one, assumed to be about justice. Yet many survivors and advocates describe it as a patriarchal system that benefits men. It was built by men to benefit men and the professionals who profit from it, which is also a big part of it. It's a money-making system. Does that reflect what you have seen? Can you confirm that those are facts?
100%. 100%. There's definitely some rabbit holes that you can go down saying it's all about the money. I think money plays a part. It is a multi-billion-dollar industry. I think over $50 billion industry. So a lot of people are profiting in this space, but it's not just about the money. It's about the way it is structured, and it is about control of women. And there's absolutely an unspoken bias and misogyny in the family court system. So just for the fact that you're going in there as a woman, already the odds of you walking out in any decent form is low because you're a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even
sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say, I'm even shocked when I hear, and maybe I shouldn't be, because toxic masculinity runs deep as internalized misogyny within a lot of women. But when I hear about female judges and female attorneys who are fighting on the side of patriarchy within the criminal justice system, within the family court system, against women, against women's best interests, against mothers, against children, because either that is what they have been conditioned to believe is the best thing, or that's where the profit comes from, or they're afraid of standing up against the system that will turn against them. I mean, pick your reason, but even if you think, oh, well, I'm going to get a female judge and a female attorney, it's not necessarily your key to safety.
No, not at all. And they honestly, from my experience and witnessing this for, 8 years or so, they're the worst. The women judges and attorneys are the worst. And for a woman on the receiving end, that's the biggest betrayal. That is such a betrayal to womankind. But I think the last point that you made, that they're afraid of the system. Look, they have chosen a career that is a patriarchal system, 100%. They're in that. So it is their livelihood. It is where they have to show and even prove their worthiness to be in the patriarchal system. They have to get the approval from all their male counterparts. So they're tougher. I think they're tougher to show and prove, like, oh yeah, I'm badass. I can do this. I can subject her to humiliation and intimidation and threats. And they get a pat on the back when they go out, or if they do a round of golf or have a beer at the end of the day, they get a pat on the back.
And I'm sure they justify it in their own head in that way, right? I'm just doing my job. This is how I keep my job. This is how I feed my family by doing this job, which there's so many crazy ways that we can justify.
I don't even know if they're that conscious. Yeah, I don't know if they're that conscious about it.
Maybe not.
They're just playing the game. They're playing it hard. It's like when women entered the workforce in general, in the 60s and 70s, where we really were shifting the balance of women in the workplace. We overcompensated. We all wore, we wanted to dress like men. We wanted to wear the suit like the man. Think about it. It's like we didn't think we could be feminine in those workplace roles.
Right.
And the court system's just way behind. It's kind of stuck in this very patriarchal, misogynistic environment. And it's very, very hostile for women, this environment. Yeah. I actually want to quickly read a quote from Judith Herman, Trauma and Recovery, about the legal system in the US. The legal system in the United States is a hostile environment for women. Our legal system was designed to provoke traumatic symptoms in women who seek justice. The legal system in the US was designed to protect men from the superior power of the state, but our system was not designed to protect women and children from the superior power of man. Seeking justice in this biased US system can be both repetition of the trauma and a failure of justice. Let that sink in. I mean, it's spot on.
The power of men. Yep.
So we haven't got a leg to stand on.
It's almost like we need to burn it all down and create our own justice system, sort of like in the Barbie movie, right? Like we just need to wreck it and rebuild it with all women. Maybe that day will come someday.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't believe this system can be reformed, the family court system. Look, it doesn't
work
built
as it is.
No. Well, it does. It does work.
It works for who it was built for. You're right. Yeah.
Right. It's not broken. It's working exactly how they want it to work.
It's just a misnomer. It's not a family court system. It's a men court system.
Yeah.
So it's selling a false bill of goods.
Yeah. And why does everyone even have to go to court to uncouple, to divorce? Like, why? Why do we have to have,
why do you have to ask permission to do that?
Yeah. Why do we have to have a psychological evaluation on us to divorce? We didn't have to have one to get married or to have a child, but suddenly we need one to leave a marriage. It's like, it's completely upside down. Completely.
I mean, that's a whole other episode, right? Like the whole, why were we even sold into this idea that we should get married? But that's for another episode. So back to Lizzie. On We Spoke, you have a page that honors mothers lost, and there are far too many on this page.
We often talk about how leaving is the most dangerous time for a survivor, but less discussed is how ongoing abuse and re-traumatization, especially through family court, can lead some survivors to take their own lives. And I know you said earlier you don't believe that Lizzie took her own life, but a lot of women do, unfortunately. Can you speak to that?
Mm, mm. Yeah, I started the Mothers Lost campaign because initially with Catherine Kasanoff, but I'd been hearing obviously different stories about they were in the middle of a child custody battle or such. Now, this isn't just, I don't put every domestic violence femicide up on this page because it would be thousands long and it would be my daily job because we lose about 4 or 5 women a day here in the US to domestic violence or femicide in general. So the women on Mothers Lost was specifically involved in a divorce case, family court, child custody, or doing, they might have just, finalized everything and it was a child custody exchange. It had something to do with that post-separation. And really what I've witnessed, and I think others will agree with, is that the family court system is really used by an abuser or really anyone that wants control. Let's say he wasn't physically abusive, but he controlled. It's a way to continue that control. It's a way, like you've physically left. Let's say you've separated. Now he can keep sending you court dates and hearings and claims and anything that he wants to have you go into court with him, because then he has access over you and he still gets to exert his power and control over you. So it's really just an arm. It's an arm of the abuse. And that's why so many women end up there stuck and they can't believe what's happening once they get there. Like Judith Herman said, women go there thinking, the judge will hear my story. They'll hear what happened to me and the kids. They'll understand I've got all this proof. I've been doing screenshots and I've got his bank accounts and I've got him having an affair. I'm going to be okay. I'll be protected. And that's incredibly wrong. It couldn't be more wrong and farther from the truth. This court will not protect you in any way. If you are a woman, you're just not going to get anything. So I think women have this wake up call as they go in with all their hopes and handing their power over from an abuser to their attorney or to the court system. Here, please take care of me. Please take care of me and my kids. Yeah. And it's like, it's a blindsiding of truth and reality that's not going to happen here, is it? And I think that throws a lot of women, maybe not into a depression, but into just a spiral of, how can this be happening? Like they've been watching Law and Order or other TV shows about justice. They think that's how things will play out. And it's not. Right. It's not. It's a very abusive and predatory system.
Right. And
so then, you're dealing
where else
with,
are they going to turn? Yeah.
Where else are they going to turn? Exactly. So I think a lot of the women, we definitely have some women that died by suicide on Mothers Lost. There are a couple of women that allegedly also killed their children in the process. My only thought behind that is that in life, it could have been so daunting that what they knew their children were going to be subjected to, like maybe sexual abuse, that they didn't want the suffering. That's the only thing I can think of that a mother would take such action. But the majority of the women died either under suspicious causes or outright murder. Mm-hmm. Shot, strangled, stabbed. So we're honoring them. We're having a place for them to say, look, the system didn't believe you. The courts didn't believe you. Maybe the police didn't believe you. We believe you. We believe you. And you have a place here. And we're going to put a beautiful picture up of you and you have a spot for us in our hearts. Let's not forget, because so many women die, and then it's all in the news, and there's a GoFundMe, and then it's gone because there's another woman that dies, or there's another thing.
Yeah.
And it's almost like I have a great journalist colleague that helps me with the stories. Her name's Olivia Fay. And I'll say, hey, I've got a lead on a mother. Could you check her out? And she gets so upset. She's young. She's in her 20s. And she's like, it's so sad, Natalie, because I can't find barely any news on this woman. And especially if they're women of color, it's even harder. Yeah. It's just hard to find and get the coverage that they deserve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think what's even worse too is that before their deaths, these women, like Lizzie, are kind of shouting into these crowded rooms of people saying, help me, this is happening. And like a lot of people who have never been through it, who aren't in this world of domestic violence advocacy, it sounds so improbable that this is what is actually happening in family court system. Like when I replay some of these things that I report on to my husband and he says, that can't possibly be true. It blows his mind because he's far from this world. And I say, but this is what's happening every day.
Yeah.
And so I feel like these survivors who are shouting these things into these rooms of people through the internet and what have you, they come across as sort of unfairly unhinged or painted like they're crazy. And I think that Lizzie had that moniker attached to her because she was outspoken. And a lot of people would rather paint women as crazy than to do the work of believing them and then the hard work of unraveling the truth of what they're talking about. Did you find that to be true with Lizzie?
Oh, yeah. With Lizzie, with Catherine, with many other women, they want you to be compliant. These courts and these exes, they don't like women that step out of line. And I think that's been going on a long, long time. I don't think that's anything new. Women are meant to be kind of seen and not heard. And, with the various women's rights movements, starting in the 90s, suffragettes, and moving through into the 70s, we became more and more like, no, we're equals. We have a place. We're allowed to have a bank account of our own. We're allowed to have a credit card or own a house. We've earned all these rights. And there's this kind of underlying backlash for all of the gains that we have made as women, which is kind of why I started my podcast, Chat in the Commons, with my co-host, because it's just like, have we really gained our rights, or are they like slowly eroding, and are they being taken away, or is there this backlash? So going back to Lizzie, yes, she was outspoken. When you post on social media, when you make these statements and claims or set up a website, they're going to come after you really, really hard. They literally want to put a scold's bridle on you, like in medieval times. Lizzie was arrested initially, I think, for putting balloons on her son's car when he graduated, when he got accepted into the college that he wanted. She was arrested for that. Like, she would think about that. You're not doing any harm. She technically violated a restraining order, whatever. Again, they're going to throw things at you, create a label, say things about you, and then suddenly, if you don't abide by those, which Lizzie did not, she was very, very outspoken that there was everything that was happening to her was completely unjust. They're going to come down harder. And she was divorcing a very, very powerful attorney husband, very connected,
who knows all the tricks. Yeah,
or has a lot of connections. Was he abusive? I don't know. I never met the man. Well, I did at her funeral, but only she and the children, and Brian knows that. So we can't sit here and speculate whether he was abusive or was a pedophile. We don't know that. But the fact that she was making these claims it's so much easier and very, very convenient to say she's mentally ill. She has bipolar. She has whatever, schizophrenia, who knows?
Right.
Because then everything neatly falls under that label. So she was put into a psychiatric institution in Rockland. I attempted to visit her there. I was never allowed to get through. He put her into guardianship. I'm sure your listeners know about all this, but this, and she was warning other women, like, this can happen to you. If this can happen to me, this can happen to you. Again, similar to Catherine Kasanoff, and they were friends, Catherine and Lizzie. Yeah.
What do you think happened to Elizabeth? How do you think
in
she
her
died?
death?
Yes.
That's very hard for me to speculate, only because, again, I hadn't really seen her or chatted with her maybe for a year before that. So I hadn't seen her in her how she currently was. I don't know. Was she deteriorating or under the stress of not being able to have her children? I can't answer that. I mean, I think it does take a toll. If it doesn't on your mental health, it would definitely on your physical health. And so many women in We Spoke have, cancer or lifelong debilitating illnesses because of the stress they go through in these courts. For Lizzie, I would say I knew she was a tennis player. She played up in the Stanford Club in Connecticut. And as far as I know, she was active and healthy up until her death. So to me, it seemed suspicious, I don't know if the autopsy report came out or whether they just closed it up again, neat and tidy.
I hope that the more people who report on this and speak out about this, the more that they will feel pressured to reopen this case and look into it further. But,
it's not a new thing, though,
that.
getting rid of your wife. I mean,
That's
been around as long as patriarchy's been around, and going back a long time. There's just different ways of doing it these days.
I mean, they're referred to as hidden homicides, right? Like, where it is the act of committing homicide and making it look like a suicide. One of the most common ways of doing that is strangulation, because that doesn't leave visible marks most often. And there are some very subtle signs of strangulation that are often overlooked unless someone is very well versed in finding them. So it's easy to say that this person died of something else or they hung themselves. This has happened multiple times. So this is it's not a far off theory. It's not some sort of weird conspiracy theory to think that this is entirely possible.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, who was she was so sweet. Nancy Johnson in Alabama. She's on Mother's Lost, but she was made out to hang herself. So take a look at her story on my page. They're spotted all over. A lot of them don't even make the news because they don't actually report on what they consider died by suicide a lot in the news. So I think there's a lot of missing women out there. So unless you knew them personally, that suddenly died for, Lizzie was early 50s.
So early. Well, Natalie, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us about this. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you. Likewise, through to domestic, what's your group called?
Domestic shelters.
Thank you. I'll re-say that. You can edit it. And likewise for domesticshelters.org.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Toxic. By making time to hear these stories, you've become part of the spotlight that keeps abusers from hiding in the shadows, believing they're untouchable. Please visit us on Instagram and Twitter at ToxicThePodcast or ToxicThePodcast.com and let us know what you think about what we've said or tell us what we should talk about next. If you're experiencing abuse, please visit domesticshelters.org to find more information about all forms of domestic violence or to locate an advocate or shelter in your area. You can also call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 800-799-SAFE. If you're a survivor of sexual assault and need someone to talk to, please call the National Sexual Assault Hotline at 800-656-HOPE.